This is the Global Economic Commodities Scrap Metal and Recycling Report by our Bentley Roll-Off Trailer and Gondola Trailer, January 18th, 2021. U.S. weekly crude steel production rose to 1.709 million tons, a 10-month high on continued slow U.S. economic growth. Crude oil price fell to $52.04 a barrel, near the multi-month high on concern of COVID lockdowns in Germany and France, and China's highest new cases in 10 months. The U.S. weekly oil rig count rose to 287, down 82% from the 2014 high, as prices and demand remain relatively low. U.S. weekly crude oil production was steady at 11 million barrels per day, remaining off March's 13.1 million record. Tempered demand and low prices are keeping production down. Scrap steel number one HMS export buying price Philly was steady at $360 gross ton, a multi-year high. The U.S. dollar index at a 4-week high is hurting demand, so prices are expected to be down next week. Scrap steel number one HMS rose to $413.33 a gross ton, a multi-year high on good U.S. and export demand, with export now softening a bit due to the high dollar. High prices are bringing huge supply, so prices will be down in February. Hot rolled coil steel rose to $56.92 per hundredweight, off the record high last week on tight supply and passing on high scrap and iron ore prices. Copper price fell to $3.60 a pound, but remains near the 8-year high on continued growth optimism, but the stronger U.S. dollar is a drag. Aluminum price fell to 90.2 cents per pound, near the 2-year high on the same growth optimism. China's Q4 GDP grew at 6.5%, back at pre-pandemic levels. Industrial output grew the most in 3.5 years. Full 2020 was up 2.2%, the worst in decades but the best of the major global economies. China's December global trade surplus rose to $78.17 billion, a record high as exports soared 18% year over year. December's U.S. balance with China narrowed to $29.5 billion, but for the total year 2020, the U.S.China trade deficit was $535 billion, the worst since 2015. U.S.'s December government budget deficit rose to $144 billion versus $13.3 billion last December. For the year ending September, there was a record deficit of $3.1 trillion. October through December 2020, the deficit was $573 billion, 61% worse than the $375 billion in 2019. It was very, very easy to have a good economy in 2017, 2018, and 2019 as the government spent $1 trillion per year more than they took in. U.S. December retail sales fell 0.7% from November, the third month of decline due to high unemployment and the lack of government stimulus. Electronics and appliances were down 8.3%, and online sales were down 5.8%. U.S. December inflation rose 1.4%. Gasoline accounted for 60% of the rise. Food rose 0.4%. Core inflation, which excludes food and energy, also rose 1.4%. U.S. weekly initial unemployment claims rose to 965,000 and 265,000 contractors, so total 1.25 million. The recovery is slowing as COVID shutdowns spread due to the record deaths and hospitalizations. Wall Street's Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 284 points to 30,814 as markets were hurt by record daily COVID deaths, but helped by the proposed $1.9 trillion of new stimulus. This would make $6.1 trillion of COVID stimulus versus $800 billion stimulus in 2009. There is a new lugger truck securement law for containers. Pins and arms meet the law in cases, but for others, Bentley has securement kits. Order them online or call us. As always, feel free to call or email me with any questions, and we hope all stay safe in these very difficult next 5 months.